Jada Samuel is well known around Columbia for her strategic communication skills, being a journalist, and being involved with pageants for many years. Now she's running to become Miss Columbia in 2022. I talk one-on-one with Jada for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Jada Samuel, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me, Quintin. I'm so excited to be here.
I appreciate it greatly. I know that obviously you live in Columbia, South Carolina, where you're very well known for your skills for strategic communications. You also are an on-air host, but you are now representing South Carolina's capital city as Miss Columbia coming up here in 2022. I know that you're also raising money for Miss America Scholarship as a part of the Miss America program. And of course, we all know that you've been involved with pageants for a long time in this
It has been a while.
Who is Jada Samuel these days?
Oh my goodness. I don't like to be put in boxes, so I am so many things. I consider myself to be a community leader. I consider myself to be a mentor. Of course, a journalist and a communications professional. I'm also still a student. Wow. I am, oh my gosh, a creative for sure, a servant leader. I don't like to be put in boxes, so I'm all of those things, and I feel like there are so many more things that are to come for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Which one of those particular professions really describes you?
I would say if I had to put it in a few words, I would say I am a creative communicator with a servant leader's heart for sure.
Where is your heart when it comes to leading these days?
Oh, definitely with girls, for sure. It's always been the same for me. Girls and women's issues are always what push me, motivate me, inspire me to keep doing the work that I'm doing, for sure.
And what is the biggest difference about the work that you're doing from the time that from right now to the time that you actually started many years ago?
One is age. I started the nonprofit mentoring organization I Shape Me at 18. So there was lots of growing that I needed to do in order to be able to lead girls in the way that I want to. And there's still a lot that I would like to accomplish through I Shape Me. But definitely age, maturity, so many different things, the way that I structure the programs, the way that the organization is structured. There are so many things that have changed, but I would say my heart is always in the same place. I started it because I did have my personal struggles with self-esteem. So that part has never changed.
Where is your self-esteem level right now that you're giving back to the community and you're actually helping others?
I would say self-love and self-esteem are continuous journeys. I always tell people that all adults are still growing and learning and maturing, and we are all becoming, as Michelle Obama said in her book. We're all constantly doing that. And I think that if you are pushing yourself to learn and grow, then you will always be faced with challenges and be faced with things that you didn't know about yourself, and maybe new insecurities. With new heights always comes new insecurities. So I think it's a continuum. It's an ongoing journey for sure.
And with those challenges, Ms. Samuel, how has that actually motivated you, grew you, and actually allowed you to learn more?
Well, I mean, I was just doing an event the other day, and I spoke about how the challenge between middle school and high school was really where the idea for I Shape Me came from. That, young adult, adolescent self-esteem, which that struggle is totally different from someone who is transitioning out of college into adulthood. I think every single person, unless someone has life like planned out for you on a silver platter, you're going to struggle through that transition. And that was something that I've dealt with, in my early 20s, is that transition into true adulthood and just being able to be not only independent and self-sufficient, but also defining and discovering what, your purpose is and how you plan to live that out on a day-to-day basis is something that, prompted more, growth and insecurities and self-esteem issues. So there are always different levels to that kind of growth for sure.
What level are you on?
I think that I'm pretty confident in where I am right now. I know exactly what I want to do career-wise. I may not be doing that right now, but I have a pretty firm idea of the kind of work that I see myself doing over the next 10 years or so. I definitely had a very strong and planned out vision for I Shape Me and the work that I would be able to do through that if I were crowned Miss South Carolina, and even if not, I am confident that I would like to serve as Miss South Carolina, and I think that saying that out loud can be scary, of course, when you don't get to make that decision. You're competing for judges, but I am sure of those things, and I think that I would consider myself pretty confident, and that's something that I think is based in my spirituality and also in this growth journey. And that's something that I don't think can be shaken by a lot of things. I've dealt with a lot throughout the early 20s, so I think that's pretty solid. I'd consider myself confident for sure.
And how have you actually defined and obviously, gone about with your purpose?
I it's so funny because in undergrad I was a member of an organization called a Bevy, and they talk about passion, path, and purpose. And so through that organization, it prompted me to a lot of self-discovery kind of moments outside of what the organization did, but just kind of in my solitude, in my alone time. And I truly aligned with what made me feel good inside, what made me feel like, wow, I have, strong feelings about this. I have butterflies when it comes to planning this, when it comes to doing whatever concerning I Shape Me. And so I knew instantly that my purpose aligned with women and girls. I didn't know exactly what that is, and I still don't know exactly what that is, but I know that that is the space. And I think that that is also a continuous journey. Our purpose is something that is defined over time, and it's defined through our path and through our passions. And I know that I'm passionate about my girls. I know that I'm passionate about youth, and I'm passionate about women's issues. And so those are the things that are driving my path and eventually will lead me to what my purpose is for sure.
You said that your goal is to empower girls to shape their own journeys as they become confident women. Who has empowered you to shape your journey?
Oh, wow. The women that I know in my life, and there are women that I've never met or have only met once or twice that I am influenced by on a day-to-day basis. One of course, you have your family. Like my entire family is full of so many empowered women, from my mom to my cousins. There are just so many women within my family. My grandmothers are my two greatest inspirations. One of them was an immigrant from Trinidad and Tobago, and she came here and owned a business in downtown Greenville. One of them, escaped domestic violence and raised 5 children on her own. So my grandmothers are definitely my biggest inspiration. But outside of my immediate family, I would definitely say that I'm inspired by Elaine Welteroth, who used to be the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. Of course, who isn't inspired by Oprah? There are so many women. Cammie Crawford, who was a former Miss Teen USA and is now a host and lives like unapologetically. I love that kind of energy. There are so many women who are what I consider multi-passionate, that aren't boxed in their careers, that inspire me, because that's the kind of woman that I desire to be in this life for sure.
And when did you know you want to be multi-passionate about obviously your life, your career, and what you're doing in the community?
I would say during the pandemic. I had time. I think we all had time to sit and think about what we wanted out of life. Like clearly the way that we were living was just like paused immediately. And so I think during the pandemic, I knew that I, of course, wanted to continue my journey in pageantry and see where that would lead me. I discovered a passion for a lot of different policy issues. I had been working in a couple of different political campaigns, and so I do have a couple of policy issues that I don't necessarily like discussing, but I know that I'm passionate about those and I'd like to continue following those issues. Um, there are a few things that I want to do just as an entrepreneur. I would love to own my own pajama line one day. I'm extremely passionate about that. That was the first thing that I sewed with my grandmother, who was a seamstress. Um, I would love to, own a couple of different businesses. So I just have a couple of things that I would love to accomplish. And although those things are totally and completely and separate goals and dreams, they all have one thing in common, and that's always women and girls. Like a pajama line, like,
Right.
A nonprofit, policy and political issues, like all of the things that I'm interested in all center back to women and girls, for sure.
Sure. And you all said this too on social media. Now more than ever before, I'm prepared to share in each phase of competition, meaning the pageantry that is, the empowered women that is ready to serve South Carolina, unquote. Who are those empowered women here in South Carolina that shares your goals and visions?
Well, I was speaking of myself. I am the empowered woman that's ready to serve. I think, in the interview process, which we have 10 minutes to interview with the judges at Miss South Carolina, and we have a 30-second closing. And that's pretty much all of the alone time that you get with those judges. And during that phase, I'm truly ready to share my plans, my goals, all of the things that I am prepared to do with a year of service if given the opportunity. During talent, I am so excited about my talent this year. I can't give away too much, but I always do a dramatic monologue, and this year it is centered on women. And so I'm very excited to share that piece on stage with everyone. Of course, evening gown and onstage question are phases of competition too, and I'm ready to just express how true to myself that I plan to be on stage, because it's the last time for me, so it's definitely going to be the best time.
And who is Jada Samuel on stage?
I think that I exude an essence of maturity. I am one of the older contestants on stage, and I do have work experience that not many of the other candidates have, and I definitely want to exude that. I also know that, there are obvious differences in the way that I appear. I'm an African American woman, and there have only been 3 African American women to serve as Miss South Carolina, so that's an obvious difference, and I want to be able to lean into one, that uniqueness, but also the importance of my representation on that stage and what that means for other young girls who may look like me. And then one of the other things that I'm just really excited to lean into is just embracing my unapologetic natural hair, and just through wardrobe and those things, I'm able to show that, one, I'm a creative, colorful, outgoing person. And so those are some of the things that I'm excited to share on stage, for sure.
And once you leave the stage, Jada, what would that representation look like for African Americans in the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, if given the opportunity to serve as Miss South Carolina, that would be one of my top priorities, is to recruit, and not only to recruit, but recruit diversity. That's something that the Miss America organization needs too. There have only been 10 women that are African American to serve as Miss America. So I think that we really just need to be able to expand our numbers of women of color who are competing, because if there aren't women of color competing, they can't be crowned. So that's something that I really want to be able to push for. For me, it's been incredible to have little girls and even like teenagers come up to me and tell me what it means for them to see me on the stage, and to always place, in the top 10. That's meant a lot for even elderly people in my church community, in my family, at home. Because, I mean, honestly, my grandmother wouldn't have been allowed to be on that stage. So for me, it's so much bigger than just being a Black woman on the stage and being a Black woman with big curly hair on the stage. It's so much more than that, for sure.
For sure. And you also said this too: if you never take a risk, you'll never live your dream. So dare to dream, unquote. How did you take this particular risk and still be able to live your dream?
Well, I am so grateful for Benson Odom, who is the director of the Miss Columbia Scholarship Organization and Miss Capital City as well. I did not plan to return to Miss South Carolina this year. I have done so much through this organization, and I felt that maybe my time was up in the organization. Maybe I had given, all that I could, and I've tried it 3 times before. This is the 4th time. And, I was like, well, maybe I'm just not a fit for that job, or maybe I'm not called to that job. I'm a very spiritual person, and I do believe that, we're called to things. There's already someone that's called to be Miss South Carolina this year, the 85th Miss South Carolina. And if that person isn't me, I know that I'm walking away with so much. I've gained so much from competing in this organization. But I had 1 year of eligibility left, and I had a talk with my parents, and you don't want to live life with regrets. And so I took the risk and competed for Miss Columbia, and obviously walked away victoriously. And I took that as a sign that I needed to be there, and that me being there mattered for one more year. So I decided to do it, and it's not easy to take that kind of leap, because a lot of work happens in the background. It's not just what you see on stage for that total of maybe like 20 minutes throughout the night. It's so much more than that. So for me, it was a big decision, but I am always like, if you don't take the risk, if you don't take the leap, then how do you know if you're going to fly, you're going to soar? So I did it.
And speaking of time, Ms. Jada, you said this quote, certain dreams come with timestamps. How are you making sure that this dream doesn't have a timestamp?
Well, I am 25, so it definitely has a timestamp when it comes to just eligibility of being able to compete. But I am really big on maximizing opportunities and maximizing time. Every day is not promised. I am a firm believer in that. One of my greatest motivations is my younger cousin, Lauren Agnew, who an I Shape Me scholarship was named after for several years. She passed away at 17, and that really shifted my perspective at 20 years old to take the risk and to really just move in a way that tomorrow isn't promised. So, we have to go after the things we want. We have to take up space, and we have to be willing to push past our comfort zones, because you never know when it's your last opportunity to do so.
Is this really your comfort zone?
Miss South Carolina is my comfort zone. No. I feel like every year I'm pushed outside of my comfort zone. And I think that's where the growth happens. My comfort zone is definitely having conversations with people. Clearly, I'm enjoying this conversation here, but each time I'm challenged in a new way, and I make sure that through my talent, I'm telling a story, and that I am pushing the limits on what people might want to see in the audience, because I don't dance or sing or have a feel-good piano or violin piece. Oftentimes my talent can be a little heavy for some people. And this year I want people to walk away just knowing that there's hope, that things can be changed in a lot of different ways, and that there's always something to look forward to. So each year in talent, I feel like I'm pushed past my comfort zone for sure. And hopefully this year I'm pushed past my comfort zone with a good top 5 question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Jada Samuel, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups, and God's best to you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.